Okay, go on. Go ahead. What are you doing?
I want to look good.
We're on the air.
No. I'm sorry about that, folks.
See him looking at his mirror, fixing
My
his
hair
hair,
has
and,
to be
and
nice.
he talks about
I
me.
wanted to make sure I didn't have any hairs coming out of my nose. I'm sorry. Sometimes. Well, hi there, Gina.
Hello.
What are we doing here?
Happy Friday. Welcome to Foys on Facebook.
Amateur hour.
That too. He always throws me off. So hi.
I think you're supposed to talk about what we're going to do. No, I don't want to tell you what to do.
Anyways, so today we're going to talk about a couple of the different magazines, Racing Pigeon Digest, and National Pigeon Association. What's the other one?
Purebred.
Purebred Pigeon. And then one product we're going to talk about, a couple more if we need to, and also some other books that we have here to go over.
Now, don't be sending letters or calling about the fact that we didn't have our pre-show show with starring me. It wasn't my fault. I'm not going to put the blame anywhere else, but it wasn't me. And I know how you look forward to the pregame show.
Pregame?
Well, same thing.
Same thing, yeah.
Well, let's talk about
But we're
pigeons.
here now, so we can go over if we need to, right?
Okay.
Okay.
First of all, you're going to tell them all about contacting us and stuff like that, how it all works.
What are you talking about?
Well, don't you usually say if you have a question, stuff like that? Maybe.
On air question?
Well, maybe somebody out there's got a question about pigeon.
So if you have a question during the show, please post it in the comments and we will answer your question live. 9 times out of 10 we'll answer it live. If we have, well, sometimes we can't.
Okay.
If we have to get back to you, we'll get back to you, but most of the time we'll answer it live.
Well, then let's just start.
Can I finish talking?
Oh, okay.
He can't help himself. And I lost my train of thought.
I'm not going to help.
So whatever you have a question about pigeons does not have to be something that we're talking about right now. It could be any type of health questions, breeding, molting, whatever question you have. So without further ado, let's go ahead. I know you can't wait to say something, so go ahead.
No.
The floor is yours.
Should we talk about books and things like that? All right, let's stop kidding around. We're goofing off here. All right, we are going to talk about a bunch of books and magazines and things like that. But in thinking about books on the way in, I said to myself, there's one book we have, and it's not thought of as a book, it's thought of as a catalog. But I have mentioned this before. It's really a resource, meaning a lot of the questions that you have about pigeons are in this catalog. In fact, we start out at trying to see how far it goes here. Hold on. If you were to start on page 1 and go to page 12, it's nothing except information for you, answering questions. For instance, we talk about, I can go on and on, but diseases by name, breeding season, dropping, feed and grit, miscellaneous, water, grit, overcrowding, floor. There's all kinds of little information. And throughout the catalog, you have little blocks like this. I don't even know which one it is, but there are tips. So when you see that, so let me read one of these tips to you. As I say, it's just kind of random. It's about flax. A lot of people don't know that flax is important to a pigeon because in their diet, because flax is an oil seed. So it's very valuable in growing good, glossy, smooth feathers. Flaxseed, well, why don't you read that? You're a better reader than I am.
Sure.
One of the few things.
Flaxseed keeps the feathers and skin healthy. Lecithin oil contains choline and supports the liver function. Krill oil is the best source of omega-3. Oh, that's what's going into other stuff.
Well, once again, a lot of feeds do not have flaxseed in them. And there's a reason sometimes to supplement these feeds. Similarly, you're not going to find a feed with um, hemp in it. There's reasons to use hemp too. So it's a good idea if you went to this catalog. All of the single grains that we sell, whether it's safflower, whether it's
Yeah.
hemp or
Flax,
corn or whatever,
peas.
it tells you the value of that particular seed. And if it's not in your feed that you're buying, or you may want to add it for just for breeding season or molting season. It isn't a year-round thing, so you can really make a custom feed for yourself with either the grains that we sell or at your local feed store. So,
With talking about the catalog, we are coming out with a new catalog very soon.
mhm.
But each catalog is important to keep because each catalog we normally have different tips in there.
In this particular catalog, it's going to be 99% all new tips.
Mm-hmm.
So the tips that are in that catalog, you want to keep. Heck, maybe if you don't want to keep the whole catalog, start a scrapbook and take them all
the
out.
tips.
You cut them out and put them in a scrapbook or something like that. But it's really important. I was looking through a whole bunch of information because Gina and I are working on the catalog. She and I talk about it, new products, old products, mistakes we made. When we get to that point, we have a few pages. We send them to Veronica, and Veronica then creates them. And we maybe go through this catalog 6 to 10 times. And I was looking, this particular catalog, we started in February of last year. That's, yeah, I looked, yeah, the first working on it. So we've been working on it almost a year. It takes a lot of work. We're not complaining. We get so many compliments on the catalog, and we appreciate that. But it is a concentrated effort to give you the best catalog we can possibly create. Now, talking about magazines, the only way you're going to learn about this hobby, sure, the best one is experience, but there's a lot of people getting into the hobby, the white bird release business, or people switching from racing to fancy or fancy to show. There's magazines and books. And if you really want to know what you're talking about, invest. And really the word is invest in a book or get a magazine that comes out. Some magazines come out quarterly, some come out bi-monthly. You may, and one, I think, the Racing Pigeon Digest is every 2 weeks, right? Yeah, pretty sure. So anyway, this particular magazine is called the National Pigeon Association Quarterly Magazine. Tells you how often you get it. And the nice thing is full color. Look at some of the covers. Here's one with the champion American fantail, grand champion at a Grand National show. This one happens to have archangels, and every magazine that comes out from the National Pigeon Association. Look at that front cover. I mean, the center cover. Just some beautiful pictures. And there's also articles and information. So if you're in the hobby, why not spend a little money? Join the NPA. It costs you $20 to join the National Pigeon Association. And if you do nothing else, just get the magazines. You're going to learn a lot of information. And if you're interested in showing, there's more information. It tells you about them. That's a thought. $20, you'll get one of these every quarter. If you're a member of the NPA, or if you're not a member, but you have contributed to the Legacy Fund Trust, which we've talked about in the past, your name would be in this magazine twice a year, forever. So it shows, we call it the honor roll, in honor of you making a contribution. Once again, if you want us to stop and talk about anything in particular,
Send us a question.
on Facebook. That's how they do it.
Yes.
Right? Well, I don't know. Here's a second magazine, and Dorothy Conley is the publisher of this magazine. It's an independent magazine, has no affiliation with a club or a national organization, but it's a gorgeous, gorgeous magazine. Full color, of course. This happens to be the National Youngbird Show champion in Louisville, and this was this year. So this is a great magazine. This particular one was, and I consider it my friend, exhibited by Bill Henderson. You know Bill very well, don't you? I know he always gives you a big old hug when you see him in Louisville. But it talks about products, but gives you an idea. These are some articles judging throwbacks. National Trumpeter Club celebrates their anniversary. It talks about juniors. This issue. African owls, outcrossing, the Polish link, short face. The Monica, well, it's about Monica Soares, who passed away recently. And it's page after page after page of color, information, articles. And I'm proud to say that I've written a few articles for and sent them for the Pigeon Hobby and sent them on. And Doris has been so nice to put those articles I write. And, so if you're looking for a great magazine, you can contact Dorothy. All of the information is here on how to do it. So that's the second magazine. Now these two magazines that we talked about, Purebred and the Pigeon Quarterly, are Fancy Bird magazines. But why don't we take a break and take a question? Or is that a question?
Well, I wanted to put
Yeah, go ahead.
mention about the purebred. Purebred. Thank you. There's classified ads and club listings in the back also. A lot of times we get calls from people asking if we sell a certain breed or if we know anybody that sells certain breeds. Some of these magazines have that in the back of their magazine.
In an answer to the question, yes. All three of the magazines are sent out internationally all over the world. Of course, there's a little extra charge because of the shipping and mailing costs, but there's no question. All three of these are worldwide magazines. The Pigeon Hobby is, what did I say wrong?
Nothing.
Why are you laughing? Anyway, where was I? See, you always get me all discombobulated. Answer. Go ahead and mention that.
The Pigeon Hobby.
Oh, the Pigeon Hobby started from a racing pigeon standpoint in Belgium, and most of the fancy breeds that we have all come from different parts of the world. But like many other things, the United States is the leader. People want to know what's happening here in the United States and follow our example. For instance, on the last show, we talked about the National Pigeon Association of India. And they're joining the NPA, and they're subscribing to these magazines because they want to know what's the latest. And the latest information usually comes from the United States.
Nice.
Arthur Cheese Foster. Is that a real name?
It's Arthur.
Arthur Cheese Foster.
Cheese is like a nickname.
Oh, nickname. What's the Foster? That's Foster's his last name? Yeah. There's a question up on the screen. Go ahead.
Well,
you take care of your personal stuff, and I'll just not pay much attention.
Mention my scarf first. Thank you. As you might notice, this is not the Steelers. It is the Ravens. Keith brought this to us, as I mentioned before, and I told him I would wear it on the show, and I forgot to wear it last show. So thank you to his wife for making these for us. I'm going to sport it for y'all today.
Are the Ravens still playing, or are they out of the playoffs?
They're out.
They're out. Like that kind of, huh? Yeah.
Like us, yeah.
Well, all I can say is count how many times the Ravens have won the Super Bowl, and then you count how many times the Steelers. Now, I can tell you the Steelers have won it 6 times. I might be wrong, and maybe Arthur can tell us, but I think they've won it once. No. And they had the opportunity to win it even more because they were a Baltimore team. And then the Baltimore team they were to Cleveland, and they moved to Baltimore. Cleveland didn't win it. Now Baltimore can't win it, and Cleveland has another team, and they can't. Oh, let's just talk about
Anyways, so we have a question. What is the best product for healthy feathers?
Okay.
Didn't we? Wasn't flax good for the feathers? We just talked about that.
Flax is excellent. And if you go to our website or our catalog, there's a section on that. But feathering starts with the feed. It's so important. Also, the most important thing I would suppose was going through a good molt. A bad molt produces bad feathers, and what are you going to do about it once they've molted? There's nothing you can do. So check out some of the molting products. There's some good products to feeds to add to make the feathers better. And there are also some products made specifically for that, rather than going to individual pages.
Yeah, safflower and hemp.
Yep, safflower is a good oil seed, as is hemp. So if you're looking for good products, supplement your feed with oil seeds, but don't overdo it. I've seen people using cod liver oil, and they use too much, putting it on their feed, and what happened is the oil went through the bird's system and ended up staining the feathers. So everything in moderation, and follow the directions. Just because a teaspoon is called for doesn't mean 2 teaspoons is better. So you have to be careful of that. But the most important thing is be prepared and supplement during the molt. That's the beginning of the best feathers you can possibly have, the molt.
Yeah, and Jerry does use the Ultra Pro. That's very good for the feathers, amongst other things.
Yeah, a lot of people buy Pigeon Builders. We sell Pigeon Builder by the ton. It's a feed that, a supplement that we've had for 20 years. And when we bought Foy's 20 years ago, Claire Hetland formulated it, and he was using it for a number of years. So it's still probably the biggest single supplement sold in the United States. But we've improved what we've done by request and just talking about it. We've created Ultra Pro, which is now a combination of a top quality probiotic and a top quality
vitamin.
Yeah. So you may want to consider that.
Okay, we have a question for Jerry. Hi, Vicki. My husband Fred wants to know from Jerry if a pigeon in the hand is still worth 2 in the bush.
Well, I'm trying to behave myself, but I can tell you this: that's only the second question I think that's been directed to me. The first one was a while back. Somebody commented on my suspenders, and then this one. So it's good to know that some people ask me questions. Most of the questions are directed at
negative
Gina, like the scarf, things like that.
Anyways,
so in answer to your question, Vicky and Fred, a pigeon in the hand cannot be beat by anything. So my answer to that is a pigeon in hand is worth more than anything in the bush. Made that up as I went.
I know you did.
Okay, well, thanks, Vicky. If you want to send in a question, please do. Let's move on to the books. We're going to kind of move up, and then I'm going to tell you what my 3 go-to books are. I have told people this, and I talked to a veterinarian about it this week, about genetics. He's a vet, and he's very, very interested in genetics, and he started to spout some stuff off, and I got kind of lost and everything. My brain glossed over because genetics don't interest me. But good, especially racing pigeon people and show people, genetics are very, very important. If you're looking for the book on genetics, there are a number of them, but this one was written by Axel Sell many years ago, and it's still relevant. It has over 200 breeds of pigeons and talks about outcrossing, different colors, things like that. But if you're interested in genetics, this is the book to go to. I was reading a note from Tony's. I got to look there, not up there, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, if you're looking, this is a bit of an expensive side, but you can see how big it is. It says more than 900 current and historical photos. So this is quite the book. If you're looking for one. All kinds of breeds, genetics. Tony?
Speaking of genetics,
Yes.
We were talking the other day about grizzles.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes if you make two grizzles together, what happens?
You know, I've taught you well. I ask Gina different questions, sort of a test sometimes before the show, but a lot of times it's a good teacher, so to speak. And she's getting close to. I have a hard time stumping her. But an old friend of ours who passed away, Dr. Pigeons, his name was Njord Nogel. I called, and I've told this story on the air before. I called him and I said, "Hey, Njord," I says, "I don't know what's going on." I says, "But I've got a bird that was born blind. Any idea how that could have possibly happened?" Had no idea what his answer was going to be. He said, "Well, Jerry," he says, "I'll bet you they're two grizzles." Well, how the heck did you know that? I think I used the word hell, but I tried to clean it up a little bit.
Thank you.
So he says, well, it's odd. He says, but if you make two grizzles, he says, it's not going to be every hatch of eggs, or it may not happen but once a year or once every 2 years. But two grizzles will produce a blind bird. And that was interesting to me. And that blind bird happened to be a hen, and she was mated, and I've told this story. Darned if she wasn't able to find a nest box, or him, maybe he was calling her. She followed the sign. It was the lowest nest box, and she went up to that nest box. They raised young, and absolutely no issue at all. She didn't raise blind ones, but I felt it was interesting. I'm glad you brought that up because it's an interesting story. I'm going to talk about this book before we take another question.
Okay,
This book here I wrote, and I'm not trying to sell it to you. It's inexpensive. What's it sell for? $13, $10, something like that. Anyways, it's called White Pigeons: The Color of Money. I really should have called it, and I've said this before, Pigeons for Dummies, because so many people that get into the white dove release business are just amateurs, know nothing about pigeons, and that's not a problem. A lot of people get into different businesses that have never been in them before. So what I did was I wrote this for people who were just getting into the hobby. So even if you're not in the white dove release business, a lot of basic information. I'll give you an idea. Where do I start? The loft, feed and feeding, release equipment. That has to do with the white dove release business, buying birds. There's information about health management. So in all of that, and hints and tips. So a little booklet like this, and there's a number of pictures in here, will give you a lot of good information. I'm just so surprised sometimes that people have been in a hobby for a year and they've never bought a book. And they're still asking the basic questions and still making mistakes. So if you're going to get into the hobby, or if you're new to birds, it doesn't have to be this book. We'll talk about others too, but you need to read about it. And I read this book maybe once a year or so, just looking at it. And I wrote it, and I still forget some of the good information that's in here, because you have to. Learning is repetition, and that's what you should do. Okay, we take the question.
Okay. Tony, what do you recommend for deworming?
Okay. Use a warmer that gets them all. The one that comes to mind certainly would be the gel, worm out gel. A lot of people don't like it, but it's effective and made specifically for pigeons. It's a gel in that it's like a soap bottle you push down to wash your hand. Pump, it has a pump. And you count the number of pumps, and then you put that into the gallon of water and you stir it up. And it gets every pigeon every worm known to pigeons. So if you're looking for one that really does the job, that's one. We also sell a product called Worm Out. Is that it, or avia worm?
Worm powder.
Worm powder, which is very, very effective. It goes in the water, or it goes on the feed. We have a number of them, but if I were going to pick one, it would be Worm Out gel. Number two would be worm powder. Some people don't like to put the product on the feed; they'd rather put it in their drinking water. But the most effective way is actually putting it on the feed. You oil it or water it a little bit, not a lot, and then sprinkle the product on there. And the pigeons eat, and it's very, very effective. More effective than even the worms that are in the drinking water. Okay, talk about another book. Are we off on that?
Hold on, but we do have other medicines for worms.
Yeah, we have a whole variety of them.
Yeah. So we do have several different ones. Worm out would be probably our best seller.
We're settling into the show, aren't we?
We
We had a rocky start, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Okay, here's another book. It's more breed specific, but the second largest breed of pigeons in the United States after racing homers is rollers. So this book is written by Dave Kowalski, a well-known roller person, and this is about flying rollers. And I sell rollers, and it's a book that if somebody has heard about rollers or hasn't had rollers in a long time, some really, really good information. So if you're a roller person or thinking about buying it, buying rollers or getting into rollers, buy the book. You'll learn so much. Let's see, The Joy of Rollers, Birds from Birmingham. Well, everybody asks me about Birmingham rollers. This will explain it. Building a team, flying the loft design. So it goes on and on, the perfect spin. So if you're looking for a good roller book, I strongly recommend True Spinning Rollers, book 2. Well, Laura has a compliment. Let's talk about Laura's compliment.
Laura, hi, I love your show.
Why didn't that just says I love you, Jerry? But
sometimes
I do feel neglected, you know.
Mandy, I'm sure I can count on you to send that message to Jerry. I have a question. One of my hens laid eggs with poor shell. I started giving them oyster shell in addition to the grit. Is there a calcium supplement that might help?
Yeah, in our catalog, was it Calcivet? Not the other one, the Calcivet.
With Calcivet with vitamin D3 and calcium gluconate.
There's a product called Calcivet. I'm assuming that it's more than one bird doing this, more than one hen producing the shell. So if it's more than one bird, it wouldn't be just a bird specific and that it's her problem. She can't assimilate the calcium like other birds do. So number one, oyster shell is great. And then I would suggest a supplement. What is the name of it? Do you happen to remember?
Calcivet and vitamin D3?
Yeah.
Or calcium gluconate?
No, calcium vet.
Gluconate? No,
I would recommend that one. I don't want to knock a product.
Okay.
It's just that the calcium supplement that, what was the name of it again?
Calcium gluconate?
Yeah, is made specifically for pigeons.
Okay.
The other one is a cattle, pig, poultry product. And whenever you have the opportunity to buy a product that is specific for the bird, whether it's chickens or whatever it is, you're much better off to go one made specifically for pigeons.
Learn something new.
I just made that up. No, I'm sorry. It's true.
Okay, we have another question. What do you recommend for pigeon open mouth breathing? They just fly 5 minutes.
I'm assuming they could be rollers, could be tipplers, then could be a lot of different things. First thing you have to do is handle your birds. Are they fat? Especially in the winter time,
Fluffy.
birds, pardon?
Fluffy,
yeah. Well, yeah, even fluffy people have that problem, breathe with their open mouth, so pigeons could do it. So lift them up, feel them, and see if they aren't fat. One of the things that racing pigeons do is give their birds barley, which helps to clean them out, so to speak. So you may want to think of that. If they're fat, you might be using feeders in the cafeteria feeder style, where they've got feed in front of them all the time. And what's going to happen there is they're going to eat the products they like best. And it's not wheat and it's not barley, I can tell you that. And it's not corn. It's the other ingredients that they're going to eat first. So getting off that, they could just be fat. Um, the other ones, it could be they're out of shape. I don't want you to think I'm going to go to medications right away because it could be other things. They could just be out of shape. For instance, I'm a Penguins fan, Pittsburgh Penguins hockey fan, and they haven't played for 10 days. So when they get on the ice tonight, they're going to be out of shape. No matter how much you do and practice and so forth, it's different. Game time is faster and harder. So if they're out of shape, I expect a sloppy game tonight because they're playing Philadelphia. Philadelphia hasn't played for 10 days. So it's an example. Now, the other example would be a team like Baltimore, the football team. They, for whatever reason, are always out of shape. In fact, in some cases, not only out of shape, they're fat. But that's another thing. We'll talk about that.
They had a good season.
Huh?
They had a good season.
Yeah, but did they make the Super Bowl?
Did we make the Super Bowl?
No, but we made it a hell of a lot more times than the Ravens. I'm sorry, I got off on a tangent.
Next.
Yep. Go ahead.
Jennifer. Jerry is a celebrity in our house. See that? The kids and I were so excited to see that Voice had gone live. Awesome.
I hope your children are future Pigeon people. We need the younger generation, that's for sure. And we can't expect the hobby maybe to grow because of all the outside influences. But we're holding our own. The Grand National was just in Amarillo, and it was an excellent show from everything I can hear. So the shows are holding their own. We were in Baltimore. We're in Louisville, and that was somewhere around 4,000 birds, over 4,000 pigeons. So take the kids to shows if you have the opportunity. I wanted to mention, and that brings it to mind, the Legacy Fund Trust. As you know, I'm chairman. It's a program to raise money to support the future of the hobby and to help people who have pigeons that have obstacles to overcome where maybe some money will help. So if you enjoy the show with Gina and I, why not give some thought to send in a contribution? The checks are made out to NPA, National Pigeon Association, Legacy Fund Trust, LFT. You send it to FOIS if you'd like. The checks are made out, as I said. I don't care if it's $5, $10. We've set a goal to raise $100,000 by the end of this year. And by golly, we're going to do it. So we need your help. We're at 83,000, right around that. So we have to raise 17,000 this year. And the way it works is we invest all of the money. The more money we have invested, the more money we have to support projects. Or if you are an NPA member, or you don't even have to be an NPA member. If you're a pigeon person and you have a need, contact me or contact the National Pigeon Association, and they'll send a form and you can make a request for funding. But think about just sending us a check now and then just to show your appreciation. We know you appreciate it, and we have fun doing it, but helping the hobby is paramount. I always come up with these different words once in a while. I try that. And we haven't mentioned our producer over there, have we? Actually, she's a director, because producers are the one that spend the money to produce the show. The director is the one to make sure it all comes out without error. And I don't think Veronica ever made an error doing this show, ever.
They're a 3-generation pigeon family.
Oh, that's great. Let's see. I've mentioned this before. I have had 8 children, and at this point, we have 27 grandchildren, and we have 14 great grandchildren. Let's see, 27 and 14 is 41. And 8 kids, so let's round it off to 50. I'm sure there's probably a bun in the oven somewhere. But
there is.
But
There is.
There something I don't know about?
Maybe.
But anyways, I have not had one family member get into pigeons. I'm hoping somewhere along the line they will. Gary is sending a question.
Hi, Gary. He asked, is 3-in-1 good now for New Jersey before breeding in February time?
What does that say right there?
4-in-1 versus 3-in-1.
Yeah, well, I wanted to mention that, and Gary brings it up. We sell a product called 4-in-1, which is probably our biggest selling single product. Would you not think that? In that line of vitamins and so forth? And we sell 3-in-1. I always tell people that 3-in-1 is a better product than 4-in-1. It's less expensive too, I think. I'm not really sure. And the reason I say that is, I'm not a believer in using antibiotics when they're not needed. Continual use of antibiotics could create a situation where when you need that particular antibiotic, it has no effect because the birds have built up a resistance to it. And 4-in-1 contains an antibiotic. It's for paratyphoid, salmonella. So if I had to make a choice, and if you make a choice, maybe switch to 3-in-1. Now, Gary is asking about 3-in-1. I always suggest that you use it maybe a month or so before breeding. And he asks about February, which is a good time, but it varies. The people in the south are starting to breed much earlier than we are in the north. So a month or so before breeding, and I truly believe you should use 3-in-1 after you're all done weaning your birds. Both give the young ones and the breeders 3-in-1 twice a year. Okay, let's talk about this book. I'll be right with you, Sam. This book is published by the National Pigeon Association. It is an unbelievable book, and so much work went into this book.
Published by the National
Pardon?
It's published by the National
Uh-huh. Yeah, and the past president of the NPA, there's a picture of him here, Frank, put this book together. He took it, he pushed and pushed and pushed, and finally the idea seemed to take hold, and he took hold, and Frank created this book with the help of many others. Frank Baracchini. Pardon? Yes. Yeah.
In memory of.
Yeah, in memory of Frank Holman, who was the producer of the American Pigeon Journal, and Mr. Levi, who created a number of books and wrote articles. So what's good about this, it's full of pictures of pigeons. Look at that. And what's so good about it goes on and on and on. What a great book. Is that if you are a fancy pigeon breeder, this book will break down and tell you how to breed many of these breeds, how to become champions, and it tells you the different names of the people who donated the birds. Let me find a colored picture. Well, it doesn't really matter, but for instance, this bird was donated by a gentleman by the name of Nelson. Every book. So a lot of these people are still in the hobby, and sometimes you can contact them. But if you really want to know your breeds, this is my go-to book when I get people asking me about a specific breed. Or I also have used this book when we have birds sent in for the auction. In fact, I didn't tell you, we've got some. What were the birds that we had that did so well? Gabriels. That's what it was. We have another pair of Gabriels coming. And they're coming round about. Bill Cunningham raises a breed called Gabriel. It's a rare breed. And he sent us one pair one time, and they brought in over $400. He's sending us another pair. He is the premier breeder of Gabriels in the United States and probably the world. But when he was at the Grand National in Amarillo a couple of weeks ago, he talked to a man. I can go on another story about that. This man, Link Martin. Link Martin was at the show, and he's from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, about 200 miles from us. So the birds were given by Bill Cunningham to Link Martin. I called Link Martin, and he's sending the birds to us. So that pair of birds been around, but we're going to have them in the very, very near future. Pigeons of North America, original first printing 2004. Just a great, great book. And I use it when I get birds like the Gabriels or birds I want to write a little bit of text and describe the birds. That's what I go to, that and a couple of other books. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Sam. I want to ask about training basket. How many birds fit the large and what the price after shipping? Well, Sam, you're going to have to give us a call because depending on the basket, what type, what it's made from, and where you live, that will determine the shipping cost.
We have the largest supplier of pigeon books in the world, the variety. And we also have the largest selection, as Gina was pointing out, of baskets for pigeons. They are all the way down to a 4-bird basket, and they go all the way up to a 30-bird basket. Some are made of wood, some are made of metal, some have canvas, plastic. So thank you for your question, but if you call and ask the girls and give them their specific information, every basket we have is in our catalog and on our website. So pick out a couple of that you like, and we'll be glad to help you answer the question. Why are you laughing?
Manny came through.
Oh, Manny again.
Boom Shuck-Alaska. Texas was fun, but missed you guys. Keep up the great work. Jerry, where the heck are your suspenders?
Thanks, Manny.
Thankfully, we have 4. See y'all down in Louisville.
There's Manny, I speak disparagingly of you occasionally, but it's from the heart. I appreciate your supporting our show. And I think I told you we shipped it. I felt for you once when you told me you were from Alaska, and I thought you were telling the truth. But we shipped birds to Alaska, and one of the places is, I told you before. North Pole. Yeah, North Pole, Alaska. There really is a city named the North Pole. Mentioning Louisville, there's a strong rumor that the National Pigeon Association, this is in fact rumor, will have the Grand National in Louisville next year. It won't be with the Young Bird Show. It'll be a completely separate show in January, and I sure do hope that transpires. Lots of questions.
Nice. Syed asks, why do tipplers start rolling?
Probably because they're crushed with a roller. I'm serious. So tipplers will fly funny. They may do a flip, but if they're rolling, then you've got birds that probably aren't pure tipplers. Just a guess. I really don't know. I've never been asked that particular question, but tipplers aren't supposed to roll. They may flip here and there, but if they're rolling like a roller, going up, they don't go high as a roller doesn't go as high as a tippler. But when they get to a certain height, they start tumbling. It isn't one tumbling, it's tumble, tumble, tumble from the good ones. So hope I helped you there.
Okay.
Let's talk about another book.
Okay.
That one. Now, this is the start. The next 3 books are my go-to books. As you know, I get question after question after question at home. And I don't have a problem with that. I give out my home phone number. It's what I do. I'm retired from the company now, and I enjoy doing this show. But the questions develop my intelligence in pigeon hobby because I have to do research. I'm sure some of you, I've talked to you and I've said, do you mind if I call you back? I have to do a little bit of research. This is one of my go-to books. Been around for a while. It's not a health book, so to speak, but it's a book that talks about a lot of health issues. And I use this on a regular basis. It talks about, I'm not going to go through all of them, but there's a number of chapters, and one of them is on health, one of them is on breeding, one of them is on feeding, and another one is on housing. It's not a terribly expensive book. Once again, a lot of color in the when I get to the color section. There I am. So there's a lot of color. There's one somebody. See if I can get back to that breed. Now, I got a call about this bird yesterday, and I answered him.
What is it?
It's a powder, but it's a.
Oh,
I
yeah.
wanted to make sure. Yeah, Marciano powder, just a different breed. Which we'll take Danny's question, but Pigeon Guide, I wouldn't be without it. This one and the next two we're going to talk about. Great, great books. I wanted to mention also in talking about books, so coincidentally, I wanted to talk about, I have a collection of old books. People have sent them to me and I bought some. And I got an email yesterday and a man said, I am trying to track down the story of the Morris Gordon strain of racing pigeons. He says, and he gave me a lot of background. He's really interested, and you wouldn't have any books about them. And I got to thinking, no, I think I do. And I went looking through all of these old books, and darned if I didn't have a little pamphlet that was, the name of it was the Morris Gordon Train. So I've got an email into him, and I'm sure he's going to want it. But I'm going to be a little bit devious. I hope he's not wanting it. Well, it doesn't matter. I'm going to give him the book, and then I'm going to twist his arm and say, sure it would be nice if I'm going to give you the book, but if you made a contribution and sent it in for the Legacy Fund Trust, that would be just great. Am I allowed to do those kind of things? Is that kind of sneaky?
You can ask.
Okay.
Doesn't hurt to ask.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Why, Danny?
Danny has a question. How does Foy's do return exchange of products purchased? I might need a larger drinker than just arrived in the mail. Danny, all you got to do is give us a call and just tell us that it's not the right size or whatever the issue is, and they'll explain it to you when you call, but we'll gladly exchange it for you.
It's no problem at all.
As long as it's unused.
Yeah, unused. And you'll go into our records and make sure, and I know he did, he's a good customer of ours. We'll find the invoice, and it's an easy process to ship it back to us. Yep. Do we send a return label, or do they have to do that themselves?
No, only if we made the mistake.
Okay.
Otherwise, they have to pay for shipping.
Okay. Thanks, Russell.
Russell, enjoying the shows. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Russell. I love hearing tidbits about products and books I otherwise wouldn't know just by looking at the catalog. Thank you.
We've been doing this. We into our third year?
Third year.
3 years now. It just goes by so fast. And we've had as many as 100,000 people watch this show. Just mind-boggling. Now that leveled off considerably. Anything new is just like a new program on TV. It's very, very popular, and then it levels out. Ours is leveled out, but it's still an unbelievable number. We have to talk about the auction birds at the end of the show, right?
We can.
Okay. We will.
We will.
Okay.
Ken, go ahead.
Let's answer that one.
Okay, Ken asks, is it true that white homers have more dander than colors? What is the best control of dander?
You think he's kidding?
No.
Or serious?
Serious.
Okay. Well, pigeons don't get dander, but they do get, we call it pigeon dust. And what that is much like dander, only it's not a hair situation. The dust that comes off the pigeon is from the skin itself, the whole body that flakes on a regular basis, and it comes off and it becomes a white dust that you'll see over a short period of time accumulating. And it is an issue with some people. If you go to a pigeon show, or if you see Gina and I in a pigeon coop, she's wearing a mask, and it's for good reason. It's like an allergy, and there are a lot of people that go to pigeon shows that wear masks because breathing that dust on a long-term basis does create problems for some people. I've had pigeons for 70 years. Rare, and I'm not bragging, and it'll probably come back to bite me in the where. But I've never wore masks. I've cleaned coops. I mean, really clean coops where you can almost not see through the dust. But knock on wood, after 70 years, it still doesn't bother me. And it bothers a small minority. It's nothing to me, but it is one of the health issues. Pardon?
It's terrible.
If you get it, yeah.
Yes.
Fred
And you'll
Tolkien.
know.
Yeah, Fred Tolkien up in North Dakota, a good friend of mine, loves pigeons, had them all his life, and has a hard time with them. He's down to just a few birds because of the issue of the breeding. I don't want to scare you, but it's a fact.
It is.
Oh, in control, I don't. There is no way to do it because the dust is going to come off. The only thing you can do is try to keep the loft as clean as possible. You'll see your windows will fog up over a period of time. Um, it's one of the things, and maybe there are listeners or people watching the show who may have been in that situation. I know one of the most important things is ventilation. Like with my loft, I have the whirlybird or turbines in my roof. I try to leave the windows open year round in some cases. If you have some concern, there are people who use those big fans like they use in poultry houses for the same reason. So there are things that you can do, but the most important thing is to consider the best possible ventilation that you can have. Manny, come on.
No coronavirus in Alaska. We all drink Bud Light. Glad to know that, Manny.
Kim's significant other drinks Bud Light, and to me, any light beer, the worst one in the world is Ultra Light. It's cold piss. I'm sorry for saying it that way, but drink
There's
a man's
kids watching.
drink, huh?
There's kids watching.
I drink a Yingling, which a lot of people don't know. It's the oldest beer made in the United States. And it started in the early 1800s, if I remember right. But it's the oldest beer produced in the United States, and it's produced in the great state of Pennsylvania, home of the Steelers and Penguins.
And Pirates.
No, we don't want to talk about the Pirates. They haven't had one winning team in the last 25 years.
If they're your team, they're your team, win or lose.
Let's go back to talking about books. Shall we do that?
We shall.
When I tell you the name of this book is The Pigeon, you're going to think about the book by Wendell Levi, and it's not. This book is called The Pigeon. It's by Dr. Colin Walker. And a lot of people can you see that? Show them this picture. That's what a grizzle. Some people say we talk about grizzles. Can they see that? Okay. There's a grizzle there. Let me point to it. Yeah, right there. That is a grizzle. And they're very popular and common in tipplers, rollers, and homers. So that's a tippler. But this book is unbelievable. It is, I'm going to see how many pages it has. 664 pages, not counting a couple of blank pages. It's an updated version. Dr. Walker wrote a book on pigeon health. It was called The Flying Vet. Well, I'm sure based on a lot of requests, he combined that book and came up with this book on the pigeons as a whole. Different varieties of fancies and flying breeds and racing homers. He talks about nutrition. He talks about health. Just so much information in the particular book in full color. It's an idea. Here's the inside and first page, all those breeds. So if you're looking for a great book, I use this. One of the reasons I go to this book when I'm talking about health is it's the most current book, most up-to-date. Medications are going on the market, going off the market on a regular basis. So I read a couple of different books. I mentioned this. We'll talk about this one. But I like that one because the medications are recommended by a veterinarian, and they're also as current as possible. So that's the go-to. My third go-to book is this one. Now, this is the one I've been using the very longest. Once again, written by a veterinarian. It's called The Veterinarian's Approach to Pigeon Health. So this book is all about pigeon health. No pictures. All about pigeon health.
All reading in that book.
Yeah, lots to read it, but I'll tell you what, I think I've read this book cover to cover. Give you an idea. Here's a Bumblefoot. I get a lot of questions about
Yeah, we
Bumblefoot, and this is
do.
where I go to. Paratyphoid. Let me find herpes virus, and it talks about other viruses. One-eyed cold, respiratory problems. It goes on and on. Mold. So if you're looking for a great book on pigeon health, I would suggest this one as part of your library. As you can see, I use 3 of them as go-to, but they're not the only ones I use. When I have to do my research, I go to a lot of different books. But I'm really surprised. Some of the people that send me questions, all I do, I suppose it's cheating, but they'll ask me a question about pigeon health. If I can't find it, I get on the internet. I'm 70 years old, but I still figured out that there's a lot of good information on the internet.
That's new for you.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not in the book. I type in the question, and darned if the answer doesn't come out. So don't forget the internet. It's just loaded with good information about pigeons.
Absolutely.
Sam Abdullah again.
Sam.
If you've got a question, we've only got 2 more minutes, but we can go as long as we want. I'll shut up. I'm
Not
sorry.
too long.
Well, I'll go as long as I want. You can leave.
I know you will. Yeah, I know
So
he can talk
Veronica will cut
forever.
me off eventually.
Sam needs to get old German owls pure white. Any advice for a good breeder?
Sam, you can call Veronica. I'm sorry, you can call Veronica. Looked up, not me. You can call Gina, or you can call my home. I'm going to give you my home phone number, and I'll look around. I know people who raise old German owls, and you may or may not know there's a national club, the Old German Owl Club, which would have a lot of good quality breeders within that club. It takes a lot of people don't join clubs, but most of the good breeders join clubs because they want to share information to improve their breed. So if you want to give us a call, I'll do some research and try to find a breeder. My home phone number, do you think I should tell them to get a pencil and wait a couple of seconds? Because they're probably scrambling. Damn it, where's that pencil? Open up, can you hear the doors slamming?
And then the first pen don't work.
Yeah. Oh, then you find a
Not
pencil and the lead breaks.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give my home phone number. It's 724 359. Didn't give out my cell
I was
phone.
waiting.
724-359-5355. I usually will not answer the phone after 5 o'clock Eastern time. I do on occasion. I answered one last night about 8 o'clock, but I saw who was calling, and it was somebody I wanted to talk to, so I did answer that. But if I don't know who you are,
He don't want to talk to you. He ain't gonna answer.
and what amazes me is a lot of people nowadays don't want you to know who's calling. So I look at my caller ID, and it'll say, just an idea. It'll say Boston, Massachusetts. I delete that because, and it might be a caller, I don't know, but almost everybody, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that's a solicitor trying to sneak through. So I don't answer those calls most of the time. I know I should, but it's such a pain. 9 out of 10 is one I've been getting from Pittsburgh is, please, this is very important information. Don't hang up. Click. I hang up. If it's so important, put her name here. Who's calling? Although the solicitors are getting smart, they're actually using fake names, and you answer it, and especially somebody like me. Any more questions? We're at 4:01. I think we have to sing our song. So long
we have a song
for
now?
a while. I'll have to get that song, and we'll get
You
it.
said that last time, matter of fact.
Yeah, well, if you'll email me so I can get the words to that song, please. And
She
Gina
said no.
and I, do you play an instrument, by the way?
You said you don't like my singing.
Well, we'll sing a song. We'll be a duet. She's a great singer. I have a hard time. I can't carry a tune in a basket, but she's a great singer. Loves to sing. Do you not love to sing?
I love to sing, yes.
No.
I
Did
do.
we talk about all of our books?
I think we did.
Did we cover everything?
And if you need a catalog, just give us a call and we'll be glad to send you one.
Yeah, this is a book, and it says $5 on it. We'll send it to you free.
It's for you.
Let's see. In talking about the birds, if you have some birds that you'd like to send to Foy's, send them to Foy's for auction. But I ask you this, because it's happened now 3 or 4 times. People are trying to unload birds, getting rid of birds. I have had an occasion for that to happen recently. So unless they're really good pigeons, I'm not talking about grand champion, but if they're not decent pigeons, don't bother.
They must be banded.
You know, and they have to be banded. They can't be more than 4 or 5 years old. So please, I really do want you to send me pigeons and or a contribution, but please make them good. In fact, can I tell this? Maybe I already told you. I got a call from the Grand National, and there was a man there who wanted to give us $1,000. And I think I shared this with you. Turns out he's from England, and he was at the Grand National Pigeon Show. He was judging at the Grand National of India, and in India he got to talking to them, and he evidently watches this show, and heard our comments, and he's sending. Well, in fact, it's already in the mail. I got confirmation. He's sending $1,000 contribution to further the hobby. What a great thing to do. And the National Pigeon Association of India. It's a new club. Don't have a lot of money, but they sent $100 also to support this great hobby. Sam has one last question.
Any specific book talking about raising pigeons, eye signs, and wing feather? We used to have one on eye signs.
Yeah, I do have more than one old book on eye signs. There's nothing that's been written recently in the last 10 years on eye sign. It's an old theory that they can tell the quality of a bird by the eye sign, and people swear by it, and a lot of them are big winners. As far as the wing feather, we talked about that a little bit before, but almost every good quality race pigeon book talks about feather condition. And some people pluck feathers from the bird so that they'll grow in quicker. So there's a lot of different things. If you give me a call at home, I'll go through some of the old books I've got, and I won't sell them to you, but I might mention, wouldn't a contribution to the Legacy Fund Trust be nice? But I do have some old eye sign books. I'll be glad to share them with you.
And Sam, I took note of that, and I'll email Jerry just to remind him for when you call.
Well, I think, according to my notes, these are my notes for the show. I come in 3 or 4 hours before the show, and I don't want anybody to bother me. I sit down and think and think and think, and this is what I come up with.
It's everything he came up with.
We talked about working on it. Oh, did you want to talk about the Facebook show on Valentine's Day?
I was waiting.
Oh, you were going to get there,
I wasn't gonna
Birds for the Auction, old book program.
Anyways, our next show is February 14th, Valentine's Day, and we're having a special contest that day. So make sure you watch and listen, and you might win something. Just like
if you. Yeah, I guess I don't want to let the cat out of the bag. No, let the pigeon out of the bag.
Yeah, don't.
But and I won't do that. Real quick, I wanted to mention this, and I won't go into a lot of detail. I forgot to mention these 2 books. The 2 most common ailments in pigeons is the droppings. You look at the droppings, and they're loose, they're green, they're brown, they're bloody, whatever. And as you know, we offer a service where you can send fresh droppings in, and we have a veterinarian who is a pigeon person look at them and find out what anything that is in the droppings, he will be able to define and In a lot of cases, he'll call you. It's Problem Droppings Explained. Now, if you are interested in sending droppings, please call and ask the company. Call Sherry, 724-843-6889. So you can call Sherry and she'll tell you how to do it. There's a cost to it, but if you're going to put your birds together and start breeding, why not check the droppings first? You may find something, it might be coccidiosis, canker, whatever. So there might be something in there that you don't even know about. So before breeding season, have the droppings analyzed. Call Sherry and she'll tell you how to do it. The other most common of all problems with pigeons is respiratory. We get more calls, and I think we have more product specifically for respiratory than any other. Pardon?
We didn't talk about that bromhexine.
Oh, we will.
Okay.
Thank you. See, we're only at 4:08. So anyways, it's a great book, inexpensive, printed by Fours. Both of these last two are printed by us, and inexpensive. But if you want a good, I talked to about reading. Here's two. Read about droppings and read about colds and canker and coughs. Good books. I think I can shut up now.
Jim asked about
I think, not necessarily.
Oh, I know. He won't. Jim asked about the auction. So for the homers, Rosario Morosky won for the homers. And then the fantails, Carlos da Silva won. So if you're watching, give us a call right after the show.
Would you tell them what they sold for?
Oh, sure. The homers sold for $290 and the fantails $130.
Good. I'll tell you what, on those racing homers, I can speak to that. I was looking at them again today. Beautiful pair of pigeons. You're going to love them. You get that, call and use a credit card or however you're going to pay, please. And I'll get those birds out to you because it's breeding season. You want to get them into your loft now and raise some good young birds for the upcoming racing season. You will not be disappointed. Great pigeons. Fantails, those were American fans or were the Indian fans? I can't remember.
I don't know.
No, Indian fan. From an Indian fan breeder, of course. I don't, I always like it when a guy or a woman, which I wanted to mention, is a specific breeder of a bird, of a breed. They know what they're talking about. A lot of people carry 8 or 10 or 20. There's only one man in the United, or maybe two, in the United States that I know who has multiple breeds and is an expert on all of them. One is John Hepner and one is John DiCarlo. They really know their different breeds. And I forgot what I was going to talk about again. I wanted to mention it again. We were talking about breeders and breeds, and I forgot. I forgot. Now everybody's going to be in suspense.
I know.
Wondering. It might come to me. Are we all done?
I believe so.
I thought there was another question.
Well, we was going to talk about bromhexine.
Okay, bromhexine. BROMHEXINE. You're missing the boat if you don't have this product. And I don't think you hear us trying to sell products very often. And I'm not trying to sell it. I'm trying to help you. Bromhexine is an additive. And the way it works is when you are giving antibiotics or medicines to your birds, most treatments are as low as 5 days, and some treatments actually go out to 45 days. The first 4 days of any medical treatment, and I'm talking about canker, coccidiosis, worms, bacterial infections, whatever you're doing, the first 4 days you combine them with the bromhexine. That's what it's made for. It goes with any antibiotic you can possibly imagine. It'll make it better, with the exception of furozolidone. Can't use it with that. But bromhexine is a great product. You all stock up on medicines. You should have a bottle of bromhexine powder with you. And the first day up to the 4th day, you follow the directions on the bottle, mix it with the antibiotics, you'll get better and quicker results.
But continue the medicine for the full...
Yeah, thank you.
the full amount of days that you need to do it. Just do the bromhexine for 4 days and then continue the medicine for the remainder of the time.
Also, if you if you donate $100 or more to the trust, I forgot to mention, you get a certificate to hang on your wall. And eventually it could be a framed certificate, but it's a way of saying thank you. Shut up, Jerry. Now, it's 4:12. Just think if we were on a network or something and we went 12 minutes over, they wouldn't be watching. We'd be cut off right at that second.
So, we'll see you again February 14th, Valentine's Day.
Lots of interesting information going to be supplied. We're going to try something, a new, not a contest. What did we come up with a word?
Contest.
Contest, okay. Going to be a contest for viewers of the Facebook show only, and there will be rewards for answering the right question. I'm tired. I think I talk more this show than ever.
I think so too.
Did I kind of step my boundary?
Not at all. Not at all. You're fine.
Well, and I wanted to thank Gina for coming in. You still have it?
No.
She has a situation with migraine headaches. She could barely get out of bed this morning. Truthfully, really, really a problem. And if you have migraines, you know. But she's a trooper. She showed up to do the show, and for that I thank you. Because the alternative was to have Kim on. I hope she's watching.
I'm sure they like to see other people every once in a while. I mean, it would be nice sometimes.
What I would love to see, and it just might transpire, is you, Kim, and Sherry do the show without me. Maybe the next time we go on a vacation and I'm going to be gone, the three of you can sit. Wouldn't that be a good show? Veronica doesn't even want to speak, let alone have her picture on. She just nods her head sometimes. Anyways, thanks a lot for watching. Had fun today. Hope you did too, and I hope you did too, folks.
Have a great weekend. We'll see you February 14th.